Hi guys, I'm here with Brian Maillard, the person who has voiced a few TMNT characters on the 2003 show.
How are you? Good to see you.
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Southern California.
So the first question is, did you watch the previous version of the Turtles?
I watched a version of it when I was younger. So when I was in kind of middle school, seventh, eighth grade, that sort of thing. But then I kind of forgot about it until I became an actor, and they were doing this new version of the show. So I wasn't a huge diehard fan, but I was familiar with the show and excited to be a part of the new version of it. Yeah.
How did you find out about the TV show?
I had an agent in New York who just started getting me voiceover work. Even when I first started, I was 21 years old, but I had a very low voice, so I sounded older, so I could play older characters even at that age. So they just started sending me out for that type of roles, and there was a company in New York City called 4Kids TV that produced the Ninja Turtles show. And they also did a bunch of other shows of that era, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, One Piece, shows like that. And so once I started working on one of the shows, I started doing voices on all of them because they just kept drawing from the same pool of actors.
And what was the auditioning process like?
It was pretty quick, as I recall. I mean, these days it's a lot more. It's the same process. You basically are given a script, and you have to try to come up with a voice for the character that you think matches, and you send in the audition. Before COVID, we would go to an actual studio a lot of the times and record an audition. But in recent years, and certainly in the last 8 months, everybody has home studios, and so we just record our auditions at home. And then you hope that the producers like you and pick you, and then they bring you in and you do the voice. And it was similar to that back then, although, like I said, I didn't have a home studio. I probably went to a studio and auditioned. And it's funny, I was so young then, I was 21 or 22, that it didn't even register to me that, like, oh, I got the job, cool. Like, it was just the next thing that I was doing. Now, 20 years later, I'm like, God, I should have been more excited and appreciative that I got it, because then it led to, like I said, all those other shows. So it was a great opportunity at the time, but for me, it was just like the next thing that came along. It was a commercial or a TV show I was auditioning for, so.
Can you still do the voices?
I can. It's funny. I don't mean to disrespect the memory of the show, but they had me do so many random, oh, hey, can you do this real quick? And I would just do it. And that would be the last time I thought about it. And for a big fan like you, it's like, it sticks in your memory as this oh, I love that guy. But for me, it's like, I remember doing the air mystics and having this kind of almost Slytherin snake voice, trying to encapsulate the energy of the elements. But again, a lot of the things I don't even remember what I did for them, because it was just sort of a one-day thing. I'd go in and I'd record 2 or 3 episodes of that one character, and then that would be it. So, like I said, the Air Mystic I happen to remember, but I remember the Gungeon Leaders, which I think the Gungeon was just more of the Gungeon leaders had a very strong and proud voice, and the Gungeon heritage went back millions of years, millennia, things like that. But I to be honest with you, I can't remember all of them.
Are any of the voices you did different from your normal voice?
Yeah, this is my normal voice. A lot of times, nowadays the shows that audition are looking for a very natural voice. So they're not looking for me to come in and talk like this and be some other guy. They want just a natural voice. So if it happens to be my voice, that's great. And I'll do a lot of auditions that are just basic, maybe I'll pitch it up a little bit and be a little bit more excited, or maybe I'll bring it down and be a little bit more, mature. But for the most part, they're me. Then if they're looking for things that are more charactery, I will change my voice up and try to create images. one of the helpful things that they do when they send you an audition is a lot of times they'll send you a sketch of the character. And that helps you kind of be like, oh, it looks like, that guy looks like he talks like this. He's got like a real kind of, you know, quick little tired energy. So I'll talk real fast. Or there'll be somebody that's hulking, big muscular guy, and you realize he's got to have, you know, the gravitas and the low voice, things like that. But it depends from character to character.
What was your favorite character to voice in the show?
Like I said, they all went by so fast that I do remember doing the air and water mystics, and that was fun because it was that, like I said, that breathy kind of cool, you know, mysterious voice, things like that. I did Spuds too, who was like a gang leader guy. But none of them were, it's not like anyone was like, oh, they were the defining role of my career. It was just, you know, cool voices that I did at the time. So it's more the experience that I remember more than the individual characters, because like I said, the way those shows worked, I mean, I would literally be in the studio recording, you know, the Air Mystics or something, and I'd walk out and another producer would be like, hey, can you come over here real quick and do a voice for Pokemon? And I'd be like, sure. And I'd go in and spend 20 minutes and I'd do some Pokemon that I'd never heard of before. And that was it. And, you know, then I'd never hear of it again. So unless it's, you know, nowadays when I get cast on a show, like I'm on a show now on Disney Channel called Amphibia. And that was a very specific character. I got the job, you know, they brought me in, they showed me the drawings, and we worked on the character, on the voice together. And now I go in every couple of months and do an episode or two. And it's a consistent character that I have very clear, like, thoughts and ideas about. But partially because how the show was done, and also because I was 20 and I didn't take it as seriously as maybe I thought, as I knew I was supposed to, it doesn't stick in my brain as much so that I can answer that question accurately. Sorry.
What's your favorite character to voice?
Well, currently, the one that I'm doing now is a character named Leopold Loggle, and he's the show on Disney Channel called Amphibia is a magical world of all amphibians. So I get to play this river salamander who is he's got a lot of interesting vocal traits. So he's a lot of fun to do. You know, my career is sort of, I don't exclusively do voiceover. I work on TV and in commercials and movies and things. So, you know, some of the people you may interview here, they may work exclusively in voiceover. And so they're doing, you know, 2 or 3 sessions a month or a week. They're doing 100 characters a year. Me, I kind of end up doing 2 or 3 things a year, you know, that are specific. So this year I've been working on, you know, on Amphibia. I'm in the Final Fantasy remake, Final Fantasy VII reboot that just came out last year, and had a fun character to do for that, and things like that. So I'll bang out one job and then not do anything for a couple of months. So for short answer to your question is the characters that I'm doing right now are my favorite. So.
And was it difficult to get into the characters?
A lot of times it is, yeah. I mean, if there was a camera on me in my studio at night when I'm trying to figure out these auditions, you would see the you know, Sisyphusian task of pushing the rock up the hill and having it fall back down. As I try to find the voices of some of these characters, and I'll record the whole voiceover and I'll listen back and be like, that's just not right. And I'll go back and I'll do, like, I was doing something the other night. I can't tell you what it was because they have us sign confidentiality agreements, but they wanted him to have a British accent. But as you know, that doesn't mean something specific. That can mean 50 different accents depending on where in the country you're from or what your education is and things like that. And so, you know, I went through the whole thing with this kind of Bond villain, like, that's very good. I believe we'll kill you by the end of the day. You know, that thing. And it didn't work. It didn't feel right. So I went back and I did it. I did a lot more kind of like, you know, right, I think we've got this under control. All you got to do is, you know, and that didn't work because he didn't seem refined enough. And so I swear I must have done it 100 times. You know, I start at like 10 o'clock when my wife goes to bed so she doesn't have to listen to me. And by 12:30, I had done it for 2.5 hours and I still wasn't happy with it. So it is difficult sometimes because, you know, when you used to audition in the studio, there'd be a casting director there. And the casting director would say, here's what the director likes. Here's what he's looking for. And I'd do it. And they'd be like, that's good, but try it like this a little bit. And they'd give you direction. And you'd be like, oh, okay, cool. So if you didn't get it, you knew that it was just because the voice wasn't what they were looking for. But when you just get this audition emailed to you with no real notes, you just kind of have to figure it out for yourself and hope you get lucky and hit on the voice that the person who created the show or that's casting the show hears in their head. Like, yeah, that's what I imagine that character sounding like. That guy nailed it. So it is a challenge, but it's part of the fun of it, is trying to find a unique voice for every character.